So the topic of our case study is Fulbright University Vietnam. Why do we choose Fulbright? First, because Fulbright is a so-called startup university with a co-design spirit, which is very similar to the design and system thinking approach that we are learning in this class. Second, the Fulbright University is the first liberal arts university in Vietnam, touching on to the trend on emerging liberal arts education in Southeast Asia. So the sources that we will use for this case study is Fulbright University Vietnam's official webpage, President Đàm Bích Thủy interview in TED Talks, and hands-on interview with our co-designers, Bùi Khánh Minh and Bùi Thục Như. So generally, we will go from Fulbright's story of design thinking applied in the process of bringing liberal arts education system to Vietnam to researching and analyzing the case study and come up with what are the takeaways and reflect on them. The flow of our presentation will go from accept and understanding presented by Việt to Hà Vy talking about observation and defined point of view. Thu Giang will talk about the ideation of Fulbright. Tuấn will talk about the prototype and testing of Fulbright. Lastly, I will talk about the reflection and the takeaways.
So every successful design thinking story begins with accepting the strengths and weaknesses of your organization. For Fulbright, the first pillar that the organization is built on is the blooming American and Vietnamese partnership. The story of Fulbright itself started in 2005 with the request of the then Prime Minister of Vietnam, Phạm to President of the Harvard University to help him build a truly world-class university in Vietnam. This request then ended with the opening of Fulbright University Vietnam 10 years later by President Barack Obama. And the second basis for the organization is the successful Fulbright graduate program. The Fulbright Master in Public Policy provided invaluable experience in setting up and governing a new university, as well as important cooperation for the newly established undergraduate program. The third advantage that has been recognized and capitalized on by the founding team is a success of liberal arts colleges around the world, especially in the United States of America. So the founding team, including President Đàm Bích Thủy, Dr. Brad Wilkinson, spent months in numerous liberal arts colleges in the United States of America to learn about the experience in building up curriculum and in the mission protocol. And another advantage and a challenge, arguably, for Fulbright University Vietnam is the novelty of the university itself. So while setting up a new university is challenging, it also provides the founding team with a unique opportunity to truly reimagine higher education. And another challenge for the founding team is to incorporate the liberal arts model into the Vietnamese context. As told by Dr. Đinh Vũ Trang, the president of undergraduate program, they realized that imposing a liberal arts model, American model, on the Vietnamese students, which have had a strong but really different cultural legacy, is inappropriate. So now, having recognized the problems, the founding team move on to really understand the problem that they're trying to solve. The first problem they want to solve with the university is unemployment, or this disconnects between Vietnamese educational priorities and the demand for skilled employees. They believe that students emerging from the traditional public education system cannot think for themselves. They have good transcript but cannot survive in real life, to quote the president of the university. And their research supported this. They found out that around the world, only 38 and 39% of college graduates had found employment, while in Vietnam, 65% found a job, but only 40 worked in their area of expertise. And another problem that they want to solve is inequality. They also take a qualitative approach to this, where they conduct research and they found out about the statistics of raising a child in Vietnam, as well as the worsening state of economic inequality in Vietnam.
After clearly defining the problem, we come to the next phrase, observation. In this phrase, we will always want to understand and learn about our users, Vietnamese students, as much as possible. Who are they? What are their potential? And what are the actual needs of Vietnamese students? Madame Đàm Bích Thủy, our president in Fulbright University, has shown us the amazing journey of learning about Vietnamese students in co-design year in 2019. By testing the most universal assumption for education and about Vietnamese students, a lot of new and interesting insights were discovered. So the first assumption is that right that the best way to learn is to put students in a structured environment? In a course related to computer science, or if the student was assigned to a shocking assignment, this is all they said to the student. Here are the links that you need to look at and check online. Tomorrow, when you come to school, we are going to give you some problems that you have to use Python to solve. Guess what? Student reaction, they were shocked. They found it unreasonable. But at the end, although they came to the different solution, they got the right answer. So our first discovery is that students can learn in an unstructured or even a messy environment. To the second assumption, Vietnamese students might say, don't tell me that we should teach engineering with humanity or art. This time, a group of students was asked to talk to other people in a way that they can share the story and their difficulty in life, so that students can come up with an ideas of a product that have people to improve their daily life. The outcome of the assignment was definitely a success. Students not only did a good job in talking with people in society, but also came up with many excellent ideas to help them. So our second discovery is that students thrive in interdisciplinary learning, or in other words, if you want to be an engineer, you do not only need technical skill, but also empathy. But third assumption, is it right that Vietnamese students are very passive in their learning? So throughout 1 year of co-design, during the process of creating rhetoric classes, student and instructor can give feedback to each other. So by seeing the whole experience through each other's lens, that basically help us to come up with the idea of a new university, a whole new educational experience. So the success, I have to say that the success of the co-design year have clearly proved the potential and the proactivity of Vietnamese students, completely contradictory to the existing assumptions. And in general, I can say that Vietnamese students are very proactive in their finding. So from this observation of Vietnamese students, what we can define the point of view. How might we build an independent, private, nonprofit university inspired by the American-style liberal art education in Vietnam, taking into account the specific social context?
After define the problem statement, we come to the idea stage. After long in-depth discussion, they finalize their core value, which is independent, adaptive, global, student-centered, inclusive, and future-focused. They also finalize their learning outcome, which is about the knowledge. They want their students to have specialized study in different major and across disciplines. And about the skill, they want their students to innovative reasoning, critical thinking, and effective communications. And about the mindset, they want that students to have civic engagement, lifelong learning, ethical reasoning, and collaborations in a team. So from those core values and learning outcomes, they started that idea. I want to mention about the co-creation. That means at Fulbright, students, faculty, and staff work together to understand, to brainstorm and design the first curriculum. In a year, they co-designed the first curriculum in this university. They created a rhetoric process where students and instructors can give feedback to each other. Some they will borrow from US, and some they will create a brand new one, which is suitable specifically for Vietnam and combine Western or Eastern rhetoric. And they say they give students the chance that they can sit in the seats of professors, and the professors sit in the seats of students, so that they can experience each other's lens. And we also have holistic admissions and a needs-based financial program. Student life provide a diverse and inclusive campus environment, so that all students can live in campus to learn from each other. And your learning at Fulbright will begin with 5 interdisciplinary courses, so that students can approach and solve problems from different angles and different measures. We also pursue student-centered approach to teaching and learning. That means at Fulbright, we believe you can learn that when you engage directly with the questions, problem, and idea. Now we will move with Nathan.
Hi, now we move on to prototype and testing. So like in 2018, the admission team admitted 54 students, aka focus group, with experienced Vietnamese and international professors to co-design curriculum and extracurricular activities for a new Vietnamese institution. One of the essentials of studying that differ from the traditional model, and the Fulbright community is still really proud of that until now, is learn to co-learn. So because of this, all co-designers, including students and teachers, started off by participating in this Learn to Co-Learn or L2CL. This 3-week module serves as a bridge between the participant high school to the Fulbright University Vietnam pedagogical tenets of collaborative learning and creation. Participants in the co-design process gain experience in both providing and accepting useful criticism. They engage in active learning, such as reading, writing, debating, discussing, presenting, and higher order thinking tasks such as analysis, reasoning, synthesis, and assessment. So in an active learning environment, students and teachers work together toward a common goal of knowledge acquisition. And finally, in the final week of L2CL, students create a spring term team to design on their own a 3-hour lesson plan teaching foreigners something experiential and amusing about Vietnam. And that's how the curriculum of Fulbright started. So after the L2CL module, the lecturer taught them past or future Fulbright courses, show them the ideas behind each lecture and class activities. And then faculties and students adapted lesson plans and course structures accordingly. And by that, through feedbacks of stakeholders, especially students ourselves, and the school reflection from different cohorts perspective from each year, that make each academic year a new prototype. And from many of those prototypes, Fulbright, our school, up to the present 2022, has developed 4 primary iterations, 2 of which are academic and 2 of which are non-academic. Beginning with the 21-22 school year, in addition to the 5 required core courses, students will have the freedom to select an additional 8 courses in 4 other fields so that they may gain as broad an education as possible before declaring a major at the end of their first 2 years. In addition, the school switched to a concentration system at the start of this academic year also to better implement the liberal arts approach, but after hearing from students, sadly, it is reverted back to the major system. On a smaller scale, faculties are also open to student feedback. Like for instance, Professor Mark Frank, who lectures on global humanities this summer, included the quote, "It is subject to change to accommodate students' needs in the syllabus." And during the learning process, just as in the except part that Doug said earlier, Vietnamese students lack English skill and necessary skill in college. So with that lack, the bridge program was born, and Co26 even has a college readiness initiated program. And the first year curriculum will be 100% core courses since it will be pre-assigned this next semester. So the non-academic aspect of this problem have been given the attention they deserve with the creation of the student engagement unit. The growth and sophistication of clubs on campus is remarkable. Just like last year, a leadership camp was held to help students acquire soft skills that the classroom may not provide. With this foundation, they will be better prepared to enter the workforce and contribute to the society after graduation. And since Fulbright is unlike US liberal arts institution, which tend to be located in a remote area, while our school is located in the right middle of heart of Saigon, it was decided after much deliberation and testing that dormitories are not compulsory anymore. Why did this create some restriction, that particularly for the liberal arts model at Fulbright, we take great pride in the sense of community. The ethos of the program has kept and will continue to flourish. So like we will move on to the one of the last section, takeaways. Chị Phương Anh?
So what can we take away from this case study? First, we know that Fulbright have accomplished a few things like growing undergraduate population, having more fleshed out undergraduate curriculum, beginning a accreditation process with NECHE, and having more academic exchange programs with other universities like Bard College and UNUS. So looking back at the changes in policy and curriculum at Fulbright for the last few years, the prototype and testing stage at this startup university is still an ongoing process. It's still constantly sent out feedback forms for every event programs organized by the school. For every midterm and final term, we also receive feedback for all courses. However, we cannot disregard the fact that in recent years, changes at Fulbright are abrupt and uncertain, putting faculty and students in a passive position with limited control over the teaching and education, having to adjust themselves according to the changes from above. The co-design years has ended, but the co-design spirit carries on. Co-design courses where students can feedback and propose adjustments and changes to the curriculum and syllabus are still there. Like English 101 by Mark Frank or Research Method and Statistics by Kim Ho Chan in spring academic year 2020 and 2021. Faculty-student relationships are still close-knit and open, allowing mutual understanding between the educators and their students. We should also acknowledge that The biggest limitation to our case study is that Fulbright hasn't had any classes graduate and enter the labor market or continue on to higher education. Therefore, we have not been able to measure the efficiency of Fulbright curriculum in terms of churning out the young generation of change makers for Vietnam, as Fulbright have promised in their mission statement. Thank you for listening.